All right, today I'm going to provide a live walkthrough of how to use the web page to attack Python script to quickly parse the content of two recent open source cyber threat intelligence reports for MITRE ATT&CK identifiers, and then talk through a couple of cool things that you can do with the formatted data, including quickly surfacing some relevant threat detection rules and red team tests for those techniques. Quick reminder on what the script does. You can find it in the GitHub repository seen here. The script simply makes a request to a URL provided by the user, which might contain some MITRE ATT&CK mapped data, and then simply parses the site's HTML content with the regex looking for the attack technique identifiers. If it finds some matches, it then outputs the results formatted as what's known as a layer file. This is just a JSON object, which is formatted especially for use with the Attack Navigator visualization tool. So let's go ahead and use the script against two recent cyber threat intelligence reports. The first one we're going to take a look at is an analysis from SentinelOne Sentinel Labs, looking at the new Lockbit 3.0 ransomware as a service. This is the latest evolution of the Lockbit family of ransomware as a service, and we've got some great background on what exactly this threat is, how it distinguishes from the previous version of Lockbit, and then a little bit further down, we've got the real deep dive content into exactly how this malware is run and which behaviors have been recently associated with it. Down here at the very bottom of the report, we've got some nicely formatted data, a quick table of MITRE ATT&CK identifiers, and this is exactly what the web page to attack script is going to pick up and parse and get into a nicely formatted file for us. So to run the script, we're just going to use Python. And then we're going to use this command line flag -u and then copy and paste in the URL to the CTI report. That's all you have to do. We'll run the script. And just as quick as that, we've got a formatted output file, JSON object with all of the MITRE ATT&CK techniques contained within this report. So here you can see the full output of the results. And again, this is the MITRE ATT&CK Navigator layer file, which we'll talk through how this can be used a little bit later on. But here we've got the techniques observed within the report and quick counts of those, and you can see they line up with what we were seeing here on the web browser. All right, so let's go ahead and run this against another recent report. In this case, we're looking at the DFIR report site, and in usual fashion, we've got some really great deep dive analysis on a very recent emerging trending threat. In this case, we're going to be taking a look at the Bumblebee malware. This is a malware loader, and this one is pretty interesting because it's recently been associated with a pretty prominent and notable threat actor group known as Fin12 or Wizard Spider. Very major cybercrime group active in the world today. So what are we looking at here? As usual, these reports are pretty lengthy. We've got some extremely deep dive analysis in looking at a full incident response around Bumblebee malware, and highly encourage you to check out all the deep dive details associated with this threat in here. But for our purposes today, we just want to pull out some of the MITRE ATT&CK mapped data specifically. And so, like usual, we've got another quick table here of MITRE ATT&CK identifiers. And again, this is what's going to be grabbed in the web page to attack Python script. So I've copied the URL, and we'll go ahead and run this again. Okay, and now we have a second output file, which you can see here. So now we're looking at the MITRE ATT&CK techniques associated with Bumblebee that were referenced in the recent DFIR report. All right, now let's take a quick look at a couple things that we can do with this data now that we've got it formatted in this fashion. So I'm going to pivot over to the MITRE ATT&CK Navigator web app user interface. From here, if you have data formatted in these layer JSON files, you can just go ahead and actually upload them directly to this tool. So now I've uploaded the layer file that was created by using the web page to attack script from the original Sentinel Labs report looking at recent investigation into Lockbit 3.0. And I'll go ahead and load up the DFIR reports analysis on Bumblebee malware as well. So if you haven't had a chance to yet, I'd highly encourage checking out the documentation on how to use the MITRE ATT&CK Navigator tool. There are a lot of interesting and useful features to this that really help you kind of, again, visualize and even analyze the data that you're looking at here on the screen. A couple quick things that I'll just highlight is I oftentimes like to load up multiple layer files at once, and you can quickly pivot back and forth between the two and see how the distribution of attack techniques differs between them. One other feature that I very often will use is the sorting feature, which allows you to kind of cluster the techniques. In this case, we're looking at the scores associated with them. In all of these cases, it's one because each technique was referenced just once in those reports. But again, you can kind of see groupings here a little bit better by using that sorting feature. And again, we can pivot back and distinguish between the different reports that we are looking at. Again, just as a reminder, we're now visualizing very quickly the data that was seen in an actual web-based report here. Okay, let's take this one step further. And for this final piece, I'm going to be using the control validation compass tool. This is another free and openly available tool that I produced, and there are quite a few additional features associated with this. You can check out the GitHub associated with this project, as well as my YouTube channel for some additional walkthroughs on all the features of Control Validation Compass. But for today, we're going to utilize one of the features that was specifically built if you have data formatted in these MITRE ATT&CK Navigator layer files. You could even create one of these layers just directly from within the web app itself. But we've used the script to parse out MITRE ATT&CK techniques from recent CTI reports. And what we can do here on Control Validation Compass under the Threat Alignment page and then Input Your Own Data tab, we're going to upload our Attack Navigator layers here as well. We'll do this one at a time. So let's start with Lockbit 3.0 from Sentinel Labs. What this has done is it's uploaded our data in the Attack Navigator layer format, and this is simply just showing us exactly what we were looking at in the file. But what we want to do now is just go ahead and click this Line It Up button. And what we're seeing here is an output of tallies or counts of all of the various detection rules and policy or process guidance around security controls, as well as even offensive security or red team test scripts that are associated with the MITRE ATT&CK identifiers contained within our CTI reports. So you can click any of these buttons here to see a drop-down of the actual breakdown per tool or repository. We've got nearly 30 repositories contained within the Control Validation Compass library, and kind of where these mappings are distributed amongst the tools. So we've gone very, very quickly from just a written CTI report to generating a visual of the MITRE ATT&CK techniques contained within those reports. And now we're actually seeing breakdowns of the detection rules and offensive security tests that you can use to validate against these techniques. We can do some additional sorting here. By default in this view, it's actually sorted from low to high in terms of the total count. And what this is useful for doing is seeing where there may be potential gaps in your security controls. So we skip this step for now, but you do also have this very robust option to toggle the various controls or resources that are in use in your organization's environment today. So you can toggle on and determine which of these you're actually utilizing. And from there, that will just further refine and filter these results. But what we're seeing here is there's actually relatively low volume of detections as well as tests associated with these attack techniques listed here at the top. And so this may be presenting some areas where there may be gaps within our control environment that we would want to go and plug or fill. Just to highlight this, I'm going to go ahead and upload the DFIR reports results as well, and I'll click line it up again to generate these new results. One big thing that I want to highlight for virtually all the recent DFIR reports is that they've actually gone ahead and done some of the hardest work for us. They've certainly gone ahead and highlighted quite a few detection rules from their own repository, as well as some of the sources contained within Control Validation Compass, such as the Sigma repository. And so they've got some extremely relevant rules contained here. I think some of the value of visualizing and returning all of the content that's associated with these attack techniques is you may want to branch out and look for detections or tests associated with other implementations or procedures associated with certain attack techniques. So certainly in this case, we've got some of the most relevant detections contained right here, mapped and appended to the bottom of this report. But using something like Control Validation Compass, we now have a potentially huge library of additional content that we could do and use for further research. So thanks for the time for joining today.